Welcome to Scorched Earth and the general reading for the sign of Aquarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the last 2 weeks of October. I hope you are well. I'm using the Pagan Otherworlds for you today. So if you haven't seen these readings before, I structure them slightly differently to the way that I do the main monthly readings, in so much as we are looking for the lesson. I believe that there is a lesson, or wisdom, contained within every interaction and experience that we have, if we are open to seeing it. And often we're not, because we get bogged down with the day-to-day minutiae of our 3D existences. And so you may see this as an exercise in perspective. What we're going to do is pull 3 cards to see where you are right now, like an energetic snapshot. And then we're going to pull 3 cards to see why you are in that energy in the first place. What is it trying to show you? Sometimes it'll be trying to show you something about yourself. Other times it will be trying to clear the way for new things to come in. There are a myriad of different ways that this can play out. Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. We won't know until the cards hit the table, right? And then we'll close out with 3 cards of advice and see if we can't help you navigate this energy a little bit easier. And I'd say if you kind of pull back from it just a little bit, often it's easier to see where you're going than when you're staring at your feet. So that's the idea. So let's get 3 cards for Aquarius's current energy. Well, there's the first one. We have the King of Pentacles. Oh, Ace of Cups. That's nice. I like that. And we have the 8 of Swords. Okay, let's a fucking window. It's quite an interesting energy to be in. We have the Queen of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck there. That is Capricorn energy, but it's very nurturing. It's often associated with understanding the value of yourself, nurturing yourself, taking care of yourself in whatever way that applies. And we also have the counterpart to the Queen here, the King, on the table. And so whilst we might see things of a practical nature really coming to the fore for you at this point in time, so your money and where you're putting your energy and your effort and things like that, it seems like it's both within and without for you at the moment. Perhaps you have some practical issues in front of you that require taking care of, but there is also a sense that taking care of yourself is important to you at this time. And we have the Ace of Cups too. Now, I love this deck so much. It's so beautiful. The Ace of Cups is often given to be new love, right? Or a renewal of love for someone or something, or yourself. And more often than not, I see it emanating from the self, because what we've got is that kind of self-generating well, that openness of heart that allows you to be forgiving and compassionate towards yourself. And therefore, have a bit of an easier time sitting in your own skin. But we do have the 8 of Swords here. Now, you are an air sign, Aquarius, so Swords is your suit, and it's a very uncomfortable place. It's an uncomfortable place for anyone, actually, to be in an 8 of Swords energy. But I think particularly for somebody who is used to being able to, have a certain amount of lightness of thought, which is not to say that your thoughts are not deep. What it is more that you are able to continually think outside of the box. You don't tend to restrict yourself. The King of Swords, which is the Aquarius card, which has butterflies on it, symbolizing the ability to be able to, have that lightness. Almost, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the ability to be able to deal with very dense subject matter with a certain amount of mental ease. Just like the butterfly, it can flit around and look at a situation from lots and lots of different perspectives. And so you rarely get stuck, you rarely get trapped by your own mind. But stuck and trapped in some ways, it seems like you are. I'm going to pull another couple of cards here, because where the Ace of Cups indicates an openness, an emotional openness, which is nice to see for you, Aquarius. The mental closeness on top of it. Tell me, Ace of Cups and Eight of Pentacles, right? We have the Eight of Pentacles and we have the Ten of Swords, right? And we have the Five of Wands. Okay, so we've got the Tower at the bottom of the deck here. Sudden shocking energy that comes in and often brings things to an abrupt end. You know, it's a huge shift in some way or another. Now, it's not bad, although it's rarely comfortable when it happens. Actually, the Tower is to be welcomed because it does pull down those structures that no longer serve you, right? For whatever reason, either they've not been maintained properly or they were built on faulty foundations. You know, something in your mind is trying to fall over, and I wonder if you're resisting it at this point, Aquarius, because your heart is opening up, but it's almost like your mind is having trouble catching up with it, you know, and maybe that's where the tension is. Maybe you're doing things or being led to do things in a very, very different way than you have done up until this point. And it's, you know, that can be somewhat destabilizing, you know, just as the Tower is there. It's quite disruptive energy. But something is trying to come to an end, right? A particular set of thought patterns, maybe even a particular way that you see the world is coming to an end in some sort of way. And it does feel like you are resisting it quite hard at this point. Like I said, it's like your mind is trying to catch up with it. Because it's almost like everything that you've worked for and the way that you've done everything up until this point suddenly seems like it's not quite as important as the way that you are seeing things now, right? It's causing that sort of tension. And as it always is, if you leave behind something that you know really, really well, you know it inside out, and you're presented with something new, it's quite discombobulating. There's a certain element of trust that needs to go on with that. And I wonder if it's the trust that you're having a problem with, the trusting yourself, trusting that you will be okay if you take this leap. You know, there's a lot of kind of fool energy around this situation for me with regard to you. Why is Aquarius here in this energy at this time, please? 1, 2, 3, thank you. So we have the King of Cups, we have the Devil, and we have the Seven of Cups with the Empress at the bottom of the deck. Now, the Empress is about fertility and abundance. You know, she is the creation of new things, the bringing of new things into the world. And to that end, you know, the Empress and the Ace of Cups go very well together. Just as an aside, that's sometimes a combination that can indicate, you know, actual new life coming in. So if you're not intending to become a parent anytime soon, perhaps you should take appropriate action. Let's put it that way. But I notice here that the King of Cups and the Devil are looking at each other, right? So we're looking at why you are here in this energy right now, right? And these two are facing each other off. Now, it seems to me like there has been emotional developments for you this year, right? There's been parts of you that are being activated that have not been up until this point, and maybe not have, you know, maybe not since childhood have you felt things to quite the same degree that you have been feeling them recently. And whilst in some ways that is very welcome, it does feel like it's almost summoned this devil. It's kind of appeared in front of you in a puff of smoke, reminding you of why it was that in some ways you closed down in the first place. Yeah. I have to tell you, we're in Mercury retrograde at the moment, and this particular Mercury retrograde is different to the ones that have preceded it this year. I did a video about it for my patrons on Patreon, because I felt like it was hitting differently as well, and I was like, why is this? I need to go and investigate. And I found the answers. as a summary, Mercury is forming a T-square with Pluto and Aries, in amongst other things that are going on, and there is a lot going on up in the heavens at the moment, which causes things to be revealed, but things that have always been there. It's just that we see them for the first time. So as you have gone on this journey of opening up, as you have, we see this with the Ace of Cups, you know, really starting to tap into an emotional side of you that you had not really considered was there up until this point. Like I said, it's bringing you back to the reason that you closed down in the first place. It is asking you to face this demon. It is asking you to face that which has always been there, but that you have not perceived in a very, very long time. The other card that we've got here is the Seven of Cups. Actually came out in the reverse here. Well, the Seven of Cups is about emotional confusion. It's about emotional illusion, in fact, sometimes too. And to have it come out in the reverse, I think is really quite useful for you, because it is making sense of that which has confused you up until this point. You know, I often think that for a card to turn up in the reverse, it needs to have been present in the upright first. You know, just to indicate that moving away from that. So where there was confusion and illusion, it's sort of getting to the point of it all, right? Starting to understand, starting to process these things, and starting to make peace with them and become comfortable. Good Lord. And emotionally, you're in a very, very different place to where you have been up until now. But it's brought the devil with it. And the devil is perhaps the thing that has caused all of the confusion for your entire life. You know, we could be going back decades here. It is only through the facing of this devil that we get to turn this card upside down. Let's pull one more card for that, because it's quite challenging as an energy to be in at the moment, and I could well imagine you feeling quite discombobulated by it. Now, it might be that you have been doing some shadow work, and the stuff that's come up has had you kind of reeling a little bit. Tell me about this devil. Thank you. We've got the Seven of Pentacles in reverse and the Hierophant. Thank you. With the Moon and the Devil. We've got the Two of Cups at the bottom of the deck here. Now, this does refer to relationships, but relationships of any kind. It does not have to be romantic relationships, sexual relationships, but it absolutely can be. It can also just refer to friends, to family, to even business colleagues, you know, however it hits for you. But I think given that that is the case, if you really drill down into the meaning of the Two of Cups, what it is representing is intimacy, and, you know, the varying levels of intimacy that we have in every single one of our relationships. And that, I feel, in some ways, is something that Aquarians do struggle with. Not necessarily because you struggle with it yourself, but because your idea of intimacy is really quite different to, say, that of a water sign. You know, Scorpio or Pisces might, you know, raise an eyebrow coming up against your sense of intimacy. It is different. And I think that this has got you kind of travelling on, you know, well, maybe this was the point of the voyage of self-discovery that you seem to be on at the moment, or maybe this is something incidental that has come up while you have been looking for answers. You know, clarifying the devil, we've got this Seven of Pentacles here. And the Hierophant, and the Seven of Pentacles is a situation that is less than optimal. And you see here in the John Bower, we've got, you know, a very small little princess who is confronted with this huge wood, and, you know, we can extrapolate that she has absolutely no idea how she's going to get herself through there, right? What is missing is her castle, and, you know, the king and the queen, presumably the huge retinue of servants that are usually following her around for everything. She is alone. She is facing this wood, and she's like, holy shit, this is suboptimal right here. And then we have the Hierophant. Now, the Hierophant means many things. It can be a teacher, particularly be a spiritual teacher. It is the card of Taurus. But given that it speaks about established structures, what we've got is a situation that is suboptimal and always has been, right? The energy of the Hierophant is very slow moving, right? And particularly in the Rider-Waite, you know, we've got this kind of Pope-like figure. And there's a lot of pomp and circumstance around it, but certainly when I look at that card, I wonder how much of the actual magic has gone out of these, you know, kind of Catholic rituals that we're, you know, so familiar with. Doing the ritual for ritual's sake because it always has been done that way, but kind of missing the point of it. This is things always being done one way because they always have been done one way. This is something being unsatisfactory because it just always has been. Like there's no sense of needing to change it because it's always been like that. It's never going to change. I feel like you are changing, though, your perspective on that, because we have the Moon and the Devil coming out again underneath the Devil here. This is about you facing down something that has been hidden from you for a long time. And possibly it is intimacy itself, or possibly, like I said, intimacy is incidental to what you are discovering. But there are repercussions for that nonetheless. You know, your energy was really, really strong when I connected with it before I started the reading. I should have almost pulled my head down onto the table, actually. And it was sort of dark, but sort of not at the same time. Like it was going to a dark place, and there was a sense of apprehension there, but I do not think that I would go as far as to describe it fear. And possibly it is because of your mental dexterity that you are able to kind of look at this objectively and not get sucked down into the terror of the situation. You know, there's clearly something here that has bedded down deep and caused you to be afraid and pull away from emotions as a way of expressing yourself, or as a way of even just, you know, interpreting the world for whatever reason. And whilst there is like apprehension there, there also feels like there's a sense that this is something that must be done, you know, because perhaps it's showing you the ways in which your mind has been kept in a very straight line, right? Where you thought that you actually had, you know, a great deal of mental movement, perhaps it's showing you where your thoughts have been quite rigid and inflexible. Now you are a fixed sign, and so there is always going to be something about you that has a rigidity, and when it's pushed a little too far, it will become very stubborn. It will become very Hierophant-esque. It's like, no, this is the way things are, and this is the way that things have always been, and so this is the way that they will continue. And the tension that seems to be being caused here is the fact that your heart is speaking to you in a way that you are not accustomed to. It is giving you information, and your mind, as magnificent as it is having trouble keeping up with it at this point. And yeah, I mean, I'll hold off giving you any advice at this point. We'll see what the cards have to say about that. But the message of the Ace of Cups is to, you know, approach all of this very compassionately. You know, let the heart speak. Let the Ace of Cups speak and tell you what it will, because there is great wisdom to be found within there. Now, some cards of advice for Aquarius, please. Ooh, we have the Death card. We have the Nine of Pentacles. And one more card for Aquarius, please. And we have the Nine of Swords. Yeah, well, it makes perfect sense. You know, it's the next card on from the 8. If you want to get to the 10, and I just want to point out to you that we already have the 10 on the table. It is that it almost necessary for you to go through the 9 to get to the 10. Like, this is completion, this is the end, and this is the point of sort of refusing that any kind of movement needs to be made at all, except that we know that that's not true. Now, who was it? So one of the readings that I have just done this morning, the Nine of Swords came up, and I was actually really pleased to see it, because although it is a very challenging card, and it's very difficult energy sometimes, what I really love about the Nine of Swords is that it speaks specifically about perspective. Right? One of the messages of this card is that the things that you are worrying about really don't have any basis in reality. And some of this has come from, you know, the positioning of the swords. I've got this arbitrary rule that swords up are good and swords down are bad. And so in the Nine of Swords, and I think for the most part it's the only card, let's just scan quickly my mental database of decks, it's the only card where the swords ever appear horizontally, giving them a sort of neutrality, in my opinion at least. It is about, you know, what you perceive when you look at them. Now, as it happens, these swords are actually slightly pointing up, and it's like, if you are in a bit of a mental whirlwind at this point, then that is really good. That is exactly where you are supposed to be, because it is showing you that your perspective has been slightly off. It is showing you the ways in which your mind has been stuck in a certain way, and it's excellent now that you are starting to question that and starting to pay attention to the tension, and more than that, kind of look for the root of the tension. Now, the two preceding cards that we have here are Death, wow, and the Nine of Pentacles. Death is a card of transformation, and you, Aquarius, are being transformed. It's the card of Scorpio in the major arcana, I beg your pardon. And you are evolving into a different kind of Aquarius. It's one that does not, you know, as a constant, just push aside emotion and consider only the bare facts of matters. You know, it's taking in the nuance of things, and you are being called upon to change. Now, the resistance, obviously what would be ideal is if nobody resisted anything, but if that were the case, then, you know, we would probably learn things very, very fast and we wouldn't really need to be here. The resistance itself is the lesson. Is showing you where you resist things, right? It's for you to work out why you do that, and then to process what that brings up and release it, and allow yourself to be changed by the situation. You know, fixed signs always struggle with this. I'm a fixed sign myself, and we don't actually like change very much, although we are quite adaptable. And I think actually, you know, I think the mental side of things helps very much with that, just being quick-minded. But our hearts and our souls are like, I don't like this very much. I don't want this to happen anymore. And we'll come up with all sorts of mental gymnastics to keep ourselves in one place. You know, the subconscious mind, I was told that the subconscious mind works as standard 4 times faster than the conscious mind, and in some circumstances up to 20 times faster. So as much as we may consider the primacy of the mind to be, you know, the epitome of human achievement, the conscious mind, that is, it's actually the subconscious that's doing all of the heavy lifting all of the time. And your subconscious has weaved an interesting little trap for you, it seems, that you have fallen into, as we fixed signs do all of the time. And it's about digging that out and going, well, actually, no, I don't want to feel restricted. I don't want to mentally restrict myself in anything. I want to be open to all new information in every way that it turns up, so that I can learn more, you know. We move on to the Nine of Pentacles, yet another 9, right? All of these cards that are edging towards completion, like the end of a cycle, the start of something new. The 9s are all about the individual. They're all about how you, Aquarius, are processing whatever this is. So this is about the mental processing here. But the Nine of Pentacles, it's a card that speaks of self-sufficiency, of independence, sort of thing. But because I see these pentacles, each one of them as energetic currency, anything that you can invest or spend, your time, your care, your effort, your energy, your love, you know, your money, whatever it is, then this comes to be about, for me, how you spend your time, how you invest your pentacles, whatever they are. And becoming very rooted and very grounded. You know, this plant can't survive without water. And maybe you've been trying to grow plants without, but I think almost certainly you've been trying to grow Nine of Pentacles plants without all of the elements that it needs to survive. This is pushing you towards completion because, Aquarius, you're being asked to transform. You're being asked to transform because there is a new path being laid out for you here. And all of this groundwork requires you to leave behind previous programming, previous conditioning that will not help you moving forwards. You know, the whole point of us being here is to learn and to grow and evolve, you know, to bring that wisdom back to the collective in whatever sense that applies. And it looks to me like you're about to have quite a big jump here, you know. You might be getting a few spiritual downloads, but it's not the information itself that's coming in, it's what it shows you about you and how you react to things, how you process things, how you even understand the functioning of the world, right? There's an openness that's being asked of you here. And once you get past this tension, I think it's going to put you in a very good place for whatever comes next. So, Aquarius, I'm going to leave it there. I really hope that this helped. I can't actually see properly. This is really, really weird. Like, as I've been staring at these cards, my vision's been going quite odd. Where I said the energy was really, really strong when I connected with it, and yeah, it's getting more so. So I'm going to bow out here, if that's okay, and wait for my sight to return properly. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.